Okay, I believe we're all in. You covered? I think. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order. The Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee, Thursday, September 29, 2022. Chair statement, 3 public hearing for OP and zoning items. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed comprehensive official plan and zoning bylaw amendment listed as item 5.1 and 5.2 on today's agenda. For the item just mentioned, only those who make oral submission today or written submissions before the amendment are adopted may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the Ontario Land Tribunal if Council does not adopt an amendment within 90 days of the application for zoning and 120 days for an official plan amendment. To submit written comment in these amendments prior to their consideration by City Council on October 5th, please email or call the committee or council coordinator. We have no regret. Roll call. I think we're all on the screen today and we're all in attendance. Thank you. Declaration of interest. See none. Item number 3, confirmation 3.1. Confirmation of minute, ERAC minute 34, meeting of September 1st, 2022. Is the minute confirmed? Thank you. Item 5.1, Planning, Real Estate and Economic Development Department, Zoning Bylaw Amendment 2727 Carp Road and part of 2625 Carp Road in West Carleton, March. I believe we have no presentation, no correspondent, but I believe we have one delegation. So we're going to hold item number 5. Item 5.2, zoning bylaw amendment, part of 6335 and 6409 Perth Street, Rideau Goulburn, Ward 21. So we have no presentation, no correspondent, and no delegation. We have the applicant, if required, to speak from Jamie Posen and Ziad Hassan from Cavan. So can we carry item 5.2?
Carry.
Okay, and obviously, if we carry that, Ziad, you don't need to, or Jamie, you don't need to speak. Is that correct?
Do not need to speak, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So
yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ziad. Thank you both for being here with us. So item 5.2 is carried. So I'll read it. So just for the record, so the report recommendation that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend Council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for the part of 6335 and 6409 Perth Street as shown in document 1 to permit a revised residential subdivision as detailed in document 2. Document 2, or item 2, the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approved the consultation details section of this report be included as part of the brief explanation in the summary of written and oral public submission to be prepared by the Office of the City Clerk and submitted to Council in the report titled Summary of Oral and Written Public Submissions for items subject to Planning Act explanation requirement at the City Council meeting of October 5th, 2022, subject to submission received between the application of this report and the item of the council decision. So can we carry that item? Okay, thank you. Item number 6 is Infrastructure and Water Service Department. We do have a presentation on this one, I believe, from staff. So we'll hold item 6. Item number 7, Office of the City Clerk, 7.1, status update, Agriculture Rural Affairs Committee inquiries in motion for the period ending September 16, 2022. The report recommendation that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee receive this report for information. Is the item received? See, thank you. And we have no in-camera meeting. Registration on site plan agreement for West Carlton Environmental Center. Can that information was previously distributed to the member, and we have open mic session, but we'll come back. We have a speaker on the open mic session. So we're going to item number 5, and we have Miss Andrea Roulette to speak to us. Andrea, are you with us? Okay. Oh, I see Andrea on the screen. Oh, here she is.
I did that right?
Yes, good morning, Andrea, and welcome to our committee. So
Thank
you
you very
have
much.
5 minutes to speak to the committee members. Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. So I was just putting in a request to see whether or not we could have a reconsideration or a reevaluation of our the entrance for the construction of this community. There's quite a few things that have changed since the original zoning went in, and I don't think they've been considered. Primarily the safety of our kids, the safety of our school buses, access for city facilities, garbage, snow removal, and the road damage, and again, primarily safety. My key points are, I don't think that we've really assessed properly the volume of heavy machinery, the trucks coming in and out, the dump trucks specifically, and the workers that are going to be coming in and out of our community on a daily basis for potentially a couple of years, not to mention ongoing when the construction of the homes do start. It's already an issue, the access in and out of Arbor. We've put in many complaints about people entering or leaving the wrong way on one-way roads. I've had multiple situations where I've actually called police because of potential collisions that have come very, very close. And I'm very concerned about the safety of my children and myself coming and leaving my community with all of these construction workers. School buses and municipal services going forward. If you just calculate the school buses, 4 buses a day times twice a day is 8 trips a day times 5 days a week. That's 40 trips a day that would be impacted by this. They already have difficulty turning in the cul-de-sacs in the winter months. So having people parking, having trucks coming and going. My kids are already late to school because of the school buses trying to turn left. So I just can't see how this is going to be convenient or helpful to them. They also already have trouble turning left onto Carp Road. So if we put a connection through to the new road that's going in between Carp and William Mooney, they could come in and out through there, which would also eventually access to the medium density homes that are going in there, which would also benefit the municipal services like snow removal and garbage removal. Kids, my kids walk the dog every day. They won't be walking down on that side of the community anymore. I can fortunately do that, but what about the 3 and 4-year-olds that play on their street? Ming Road is a sloped road, comes down to a yield. That is where the trucks will be passing every single day. My kids bike down there. They go fast, and they're kids, and they can't stop sometimes. I'm really worried that a kid's going to get hit by a dump truck or some teenage, young construction worker leaving for Timmy's for lunch and not really caring about these kids coming and going. The visibility is also an issue. Cars, there's a yield at Arbor coming onto a SID. It needs to be a stop. We already have visibility issues. I already mentioned the wrong way and at the entrance to Carp and Arbor. We need a traffic light 100% with or without this new construction element coming in. And the road damage, we already have significant issues with winter bumps. This construction traffic for a couple of years is just going to make that much more dangerous. I've bottomed out my car and I'm going, 30 or 40K on my road. The curbs get damaged because the trucks, or, the weight of the road. And I have neighbors, their kids are learning to drive. My kid's going to learn to drive in a couple of years. I'm really concerned that this hasn't been thought through. And I think there's a road going in and we could put an access point there. It would, for long-term, provide benefits to the community and an extra entranceway that we could put a light in and have more safety for our community. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and for coming this morning and speaking to us. Have you corresponded with any, like with the planner in Nepal, like Sarah McCormick? Have you had any? Because as the council of that area, I haven't received any correspondence from the resident. Have you talked to the planner before?
Honestly, I actually only heard about this development in August at our AGM. And I did not know that there was, I knew eventually there would be, but that's the first that I've seen anything. I just assumed that they would put in a temporary access point like they do. There's a community down on Diamond View and they put in a temporary access there. So I don't know what the next steps are. I've sort of been told it's done, too bad. But again, I had to say something because I didn't feel that it, a zoning thing that was put in 2003 when I was 28 years old is not really relevant to me now.
Okay. Any questions from the committee to the delegate before we go to the applicant? I think we have Robert Tran from Novatek and Mr. Greg Winter, Novatek, and also we have Marco Siki from Kavanaugh Development to answer a question from them. Well, if there's no question for Andrea, we can let Andrea go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrea, for your presentation. Committee member, do you have any question for the applicant, or Mr. Winter, do you wish to speak to some of what you heard?
Yes, Councillor, I can through the chair on this. So thanks very much. My name is Greg Winters and I'm a senior project manager and a planner at Novatek. So I've been working on this file unbelievably since 2000. So it's been a long haul getting us to this point. We've read the staff report just to be on the record, and we support the report as it's drafted and support the rezoning application. We're looking forward to finishing this project off. So just to address some of the comments that I heard today, I can kind of characterize them, I think, as being mostly construction issues and not a zoning issue. So what we hear before you today is that we're seeking a rezoning application to implement the draft plan approval. So when we go through the draft plan approval, which was given to us in December of last year, we have a condition that actually obligates us to rezone the lands to bring them in conformity with the approval that was already given by the City of Ottawa for the draft plan approval. So what I was hearing today is, and if I'm characterizing this correctly, it was mostly construction access. So as we're doing construction on these developments, there's always a construction management plan that's usually discussed with city staff to work through how the trucks are coming and going from the site, the frequency of the trucks. So that's pretty standard practice in this industry, and we expect that would happen in this situation, and we'll work to alleviate any kind of concerns from the community. The actual construction of the roads is probably going to be taking place in 2 phases of the development. And so we're going to be in very quickly and very out quickly when it comes to constructing a rural cross-section, rural subdivision for the local roads. It's not going to take Kavanaugh very long to build those roads. The houses will happen over time, like any country estate subdivision. It's not like tract building in the suburban areas where they're built very quickly. They happen over a period of time. So we believe that's going to happen over a longer period of time. So I think that's, there was no traffic study that was required. It didn't meet the City of Ottawa's requirements under the traffic impact assessment to require a traffic study. It certainly, because of that, didn't warrant any signals to be placed on either March Road or William Mooney. The access points have been looked at in great detail over time, and they've been deemed to be appropriate for this level of development. So I think it really comes down to construction, and I think that there's a standard practice that we can deal with city staff to alleviate any Mr. Roulet's concerns. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much, Greg. I see one of my colleagues has a question. Go ahead, Councillor Meehan.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I really don't need to ask this now because Mr. Winters explained that there will be a construction plan in there. So just how long would the access road be? Is Kavanaugh prepared, I guess, to put that in to alleviate some of her concerns?
So through the chair, the answer to that is that the actual access is going to be the permanent access. They will build the roads going in off of William Mooney and off of Carp Road as the final access. There's not going to be a construction access to the adjacent subdivisions.
Okay, and how long will they be, I guess, they have to deal with that? I mean, I know as a resident, that the residents pretty well know best what's going on around them and what some of the risks are. So she's not here. The lady who spoke isn't here right now. So do you think she's going to be happy with this? I just like to keep the residents happy.
Well, like through the chair, so through any construction, we have to build an access road, and there is only these two local streets coming into this subdivision. So there's just no other alternative to gain access to the site. And as I said, it's going to be a fairly quick construction. This is not a significant large development. It's not hundreds of homes or thousands of homes. It's just a few number of homes. I think we'll be in very quickly and in and out. Now that road will continue to provide construction access as houses are built in the future and the next phase is developed. But again, there'll be a construction management plan that goes through that. So I assure you, councillors, that it'll be in and out very quickly on this subdivision.
Okay, well, I guess I'm assuming that's the best that we can do. So I hope it's enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meehan. Councillor Moffat.
Thanks. Just on that, so you have two different areas that are going to be under construction, right? Because you have the access off of William Mooney, and then you have the lots that can only be accessed through Arbor and Sid. Is that accurate?
Through the chair, so there is actually no access. Through Sid, there will be a cul-de-sac coming off. That's correct, councillor. So there will be an access through that point as well.
That's what I mean. So for the construction, I know we're off. I mean, we don't talk about construction during zoning, but anyway, here we are. We got nothing else to talk about today, so let's just do this. So to create that road and to build those units is your only ability to come through Arbor and Sid?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, so that's the one then. I mean, I think anyone who's, William Mooney, the houses that get built off of William Mooney, I think there's a level of expectation that they'll have development pressures there and construction pressures in that part of the community for quite a while as the homes get built. But I think the one that you're gonna have to take more caution and care with would be that established community. I mean, all these subdivisions were all approved years and years ago, and we banned estate lot subdivisions before my time. Imagine that this is an application that predates Councillor El Shantiri's time on council. I mean, it's insane. So I think the expectation for the residents on Arbor and Sid would be over years that they probably wouldn't see this impact. So I think it's just important that the applicant takes, extra care because it's a estate lot subdivision that you're coming through. So it's just not used to that level of activity.
So if I could just respond to that comment, as the councillor was speaking, I was reflecting, Mr. Chair, that as I was looking at it, there is opportunity to build the extension of Sid Street that comes actually through the subdivision, because the frontage of this subdivision actually is accessed all along Carp Road at some point in time. So that's something, I can't promise that is the only way, but we might be able to gain access along anywhere else along that frontage of Carp Road as a temporary access, and then avoid the traffic coming through Arbor. But again, we'll discuss that with city staff to see if that's an appropriate way of handling the construction traffic.
Yeah, because there's the rural commercial property on Carp Road that backs onto where you're building these lots. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think just the fact that you're contemplating that and you're willing to look at that, I think will address concerns from the residents. So appreciate that, Greg. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Winter, because really, there wasn't enough in front of us. And when I checked with the community, we had no concern. But obviously, the concern the resident brought today is about the construction, not about the zoning. And she's right. This has been approved a long time ago, and so even before my time. So what's in front of us today is the report recommendations that now item number 1, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for 2727 Carp Road and part of 2625 Carp Road as shown in document 1 for the proposal of rezoning the land to accommodate the development of 78 residential lots for commercial blocks and preservation of the Huntley Creek corridor. Item number 2, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee approve the consultation details section of this report be included as part of the brief explanation in the summary of written and oral public submissions to be prepared by the Office of the City Clerk and submitted to Council in the report titled Summary of Oral and Written Public Submission for item subject to the Planning Act explanation requirement at the City Council meeting of October 5th, 2022, subject to submission received between the publication of this report and the time of the council decision. Is this item carried?
Carried.
Thank you. Item number 6 is the Infrastructure and Water Service Department amendment to the Village of Manotick Area Specific Development Charge Background Study. And we have Chris Rogers, I believe, is going to have the presentation for us. Good morning, Chris. You're on mute, Mr. Rogers. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm here to discuss the proposed 2022 amendment to the area specific development charge for the Village of Manotick. Next slide, please. So the driver for the amendment to the charge is the Manotick Water Main Link project. This project was identified in the Infrastructure Master Plan from 2014. The projects needed to support growth in the village and also provide a backup water supply in case the single feed from Barrhaven fails. The system would depressurize, Manotick would be out of water, so we need a secondary feed into the village. A class environmental assessment for the project was approved in 2014, and the project is comprised of 2 phases. The first phase has been constructed and is about to be commissioned. It's the, looking at the map on your right, it's the green line to the north of the map. And the second phase, which runs the length of Long Island, is to be tendered early next year. The phase 2 water main link will be funded by a blend of rate dollars and an area specific development charge. And Minto will be front-ending the area specific development charge portion of the project costs. Next slide, please. So the current DC bylaw for the city includes the ASDC for water and sanitary services within certain benefiting areas of the village. And you can see those benefiting areas on the map on the right. The dark areas are the areas that are currently subject to the charge. So the charge needs to be updated for 3 reasons, actually. First of all, it's a significant increase in construction costs. I don't think that would be a big surprise. The construction costs have increased across the board. The original cost estimate from 2014 was $10 million. It is now $24 million. Furthermore, developments outside of the benefiting areas that seek a connection to the city's water and sanitary systems do not currently pay the charge. So we need to fix that. And also the update to the charge is needed to support a front-ending agreement with Minto. And we need that agreement in place in order to tender the project. So the area specific development charge update is supported by a background study, which is provided as document 1 to the report. And consultation on the background study was completed pursuant to the DC Act. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the proposed amendments to the DC bylaw for Manotick will ensure that development charge rates consider the updated project costs that all new developments that can request a connection to the city's water distribution system and sanitary sewer system pay the DC, and that a front-ending agreement with Minto can be finalized. So paraphrasing the recommendation in the report, the authority to approve is with Planning Committee. So we recommend that Planning Committee recommend that Council endorse the amendment to the background study and authorize an update to the DC bylaw.
Thank you very much, Chris. And before we go to our colleague, did you say the original estimate cost was 10 million and now it's 24 million? I just want to make sure you didn't make a mistake.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay. We start with Councillor Moffat.
Thanks. I just wanted to just to clarify. So we approved this, of course, several years ago, and then the map that you showed on the second last slide was the current map that we use to assess this area specific charge. It was created because we were catching properties that we didn't intend to catch. Now, with the new, because they didn't have access to services, right? Because not all of Mantic has access to services. So you might get redeveloped and then you're on well and septic, and then all of a sudden you're assessed an area specific DC of $25,000 for services you can't connect to. So we addressed that, and that's why that map existed. Now I saw in the text of the bylaw that even though we're increasing the map size to include the entire village, that it would only be assessed to people who actually have the ability to access services, correct? Because we have, for instance, you're well aware that we just had a lot recently in the shaded area be assessed that charge, even though they are about half a kilometer away from services, and they'll never access services because of where the lot is. So we address that. We make sure that we preserve that separation between service lots and unserviced lots in the bylaw.
Yeah, I don't think that issue is addressed in the bylaw. Perhaps Mr. Mark may be able to clarify, but certainly the intent going forward is that anyone who is redeveloping on private services, or they would not be assessed the development charge for water and sewer.
Yeah, because we will still see some lots here and there, infill lots that maybe, or undeveloped lots. We had a couple of those that only could access well and septic and have no access to water and sewer. And then secondly, I noticed your map runs along the Mud Creek and doesn't actually run along the village boundary. Is there a reason for why we did that?
Yeah, that development was it has larger lots and was never intended to be serviced. It would be challenging to service, and
because of the creek. Yeah,
because of the creek.
Okay, all right, no worries. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Moffat. Councillor Gower.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the presentation. Increased construction costs. I mean, it has been 8 years since the last estimate, but could you give some more details about what is impacting construction costs? Is it simply inflation, or can you break down? Are we seeing materials or labor or other factors that are causing this increase in construction costs?
I think generally it's because of unit rates of construction have gone up across the board. I can tell you that the crossings of the river were more complex than were considered at the time that the original estimate was prepared. Back in 2014, we had a functional design level of detail, which is somewhat not as, we didn't have as much information as we have now as far as the complexity around the crossing. But generally speaking, it's the increase in unit rates that would explain the increase in costs. And I think there are projects across the city that have increased significantly since 2014.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Councillor Gower. Councillor Meehan.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Rogers, it is a significant increase. I'm just wondering what is that actually going to do to the amount of the DC, and how many more people are going to be impacted by this, and do they know that they're going to be subject to this?
Well, anyone who develops and requires a water sewer connection would pay the charge. So there's no change from that perspective. And we're just making sure that we capture every development that would benefit from water and sewer. As far as the actual increase in the charge per unit, I would have to defer to our development charges coordinator, Gary Baker, who I believe is on the call, if you would like to answer that question.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker?
That's significant, right?
Yeah, no, actually what's happened is that there's a sanitary and a water component, and the sanitary component is actually decreasing whilst the water component is increasing. So the change in the rates is actually insignificant because of that fact, because the increase in water is being offset by a decrease in the sanitary sewer. So it's almost zero-sum game. There's no substantial difference. And as of October 1st, the current rates are going to be indexed. So that actually will bring the current rates above proposed rates. So that's the situation. It's kind of a unique circumstances, but that's the reality of having recalculated things.
So can you give me an idea of how much it is though? Per property?
I just have to, unfortunately I have to look it up myself, but just if you give me a moment, I can look it up or I can send it to you afterwards. But there's a chart, it's Schedule 5 in the background study that compares current versus existing. So I'll look that up and I can send it to you and you can see that.
Well, no, it's okay. I mean, this is probably going to pass, so it's kind of moot. But so all the property owners know that that this is happening. I guess if you're saying it's moot, that it all works out in the wash. One section is costing more and one is costing less.
Yes, and I think the methodology is what we use right now in the entire rural area, where if you're serviced or unserviced, the determination is made whether if you're connecting to services, then you pay the citywide development charge. And if you're not connecting to services, you're staying on septic and well, you don't pay that component of the development charge. We're just adopting that similar methodology, the same methodology for the village. So if you're not connecting to central services, you won't pay the development charge, area specific development charge. If you are, then it's the opposite. So I think that's kind of what the methodology we're using now as a way to determine the application of the charge.
Okay, so are we anticipating any pushback at all on this because of the, I mean.
Oh, through the chair, I mean, from my perspective, there's always pushback on development charges. Yeah. So it's like, but that's just the normal course of action or whatever. That's just DCs as they are. I mean, there's always going to be individuals that are surprised, whether it's in Anitik or in other areas of the city. The level of knowledge is that usually it's the larger home builders like Goba or Boma that are aware of development charges. It's the individuals but they don't necessarily pay attention to development charges and that. So there's always going to be individuals that may be caught unawares of the imposition of the development charge. But that's normal. When we go through the 5-year cycle, same thing happens over and over again, right? It's not. It's the larger or the ones that are the land developers that are accustomed to having building permits issued are aware of development charges more so than the individual quote unquote developer or mini developer, you want to call it. So that's just the nature of the beast.
I know this probably is totally irrelevant, but I'm just with the significant increase in the cost of the plan. I know that we just wrapped up phase 1 of the project down further north on River Road and David Bartlett Park. Did the construction cost increase affect that project at all? Because it just basically wrapped up.
And that wouldn't be me. That would be someone.
The construction industry, totally. Yeah. Okay. I'm just wondering because it's these increases have been happening for a couple of years, so.
Yeah,
It's irrelevant. I won't, I'll just leave it there then. It's just curiosity.
just through the chair, the index for 2021 was 17.2%. So that's obviously that's the highest it's ever been. I've never seen it that high. Going back to say 2001. So that was the construction cost index prescribed by the province with 17.2, and so it was substantially higher this year, and so that's part and parcel of what Chris Rogers also mentioned as well.
Mm. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Baker, and thank you, Councillor Meehan. Councillor Moffat, you have something?
Yeah, I really just wanted just to potentially allay any concerns that Councillor Meehan might have on behalf of residents in Mantip. It's not a charge that any current resident of Mantip would all of a sudden be blindsided by, because it's a development charge. There shouldn't be any large surprise to anyone, because it would be an upfront estimate that would be provided to them as to what they would be assessed for were they to proceed with either connecting or doing a construction project. Of course, so when it's a per lot fee on phase 1, phase 2 of Minto's subdivision. And Minto's is going to be the biggest contributor to this because of just the amount of land they own. Uniform also has a development on the north end of the village that this will be subject to, and so essentially it's a per lot fee that'll come before the house is even sold. So it shouldn't be, it's one of those necessary evils, right? I look back to 2011, we had that partial water ban because of the water main break on Woodruff at Hunt Club, and the Village of Mantip, who had just connected almost some parts to sanitary at least, but on the water side, they had that partial water ban that summer because of that. And then of course this, so it's this necessary piece that you have to add in because it gives that backup water service, thankfully from Riverside South, where we get it back ended into the Village of Mantip to give us that backup supply, so we're not completely reliant on the Barrhaven feeder system.
Sorry, and just for the councillor, I have the chart now. So the current charge for single family is 12,467, and the revised charge would be 12,626. So there is a little bit of a difference, but not substantially. But the 12,467 doesn't include the indexing that's going to occur as of October 1st. So it will be, and actually the existing will be higher than the calculated.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baker. So what's in front of us, if there's no more question to staff, that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee Planning Committee recommend that Council endorse an amendment to the area-specific development charges background study for the Village of Mantip, listed as document 1, and authorize the update of the area-specific development charge by law for Mantip. Is this item carried? Okay, thank you. And we had received item number 9, information previously distributed. Now we go to open mic, and we do have Mr. Ken Holm and Megan Ann Gordon to make a presentation to the committee. Mr. Holm, you're on. I see you're on the screen. Megan.
Hi, sorry, I'm just getting set up here. Okay, I think Ken's here too, so I'm just going to jump into it. Good morning, my name is Megan Ann Gordon. I live in Richmond, and I'm the program manager for the Rural Ottawa Youth Mental Health Collective. I'm also a member of the Rural Transportation Solutions Group, with the hopes of increasing transportation options for rural youth to be able to access urban mental health services. In May, our presentation to ARAC provided some results to our survey work. Today, we're going to present our development of an outline plan to improve the transportation options for rural Ottawa. We'll also indicate the work that we intend to undertake over the next 6 months. Rural Transportation Solutions is a community-based team that aims to propose realistic, affordable, and sustainable transportation options to help solve the rural transportation deficiencies. We formed in response to the needs voiced by our community members. Our initial activities have included studying the background, collecting information on the needs, and identifying areas of potential solutions. I see the slideshow going through. I think we're just at the front. The work of our team has had its start some 4 years ago after the last municipal election, where the need for improvements to rural transportation was debated. Our origins are in the CARP Rural Transportation Study that was formed by the Huntley Community Association, but it's now evolved to our current Rural Transportation Solutions Working Group. We have built on that CARP study on the background work conducted by Rural Ontario Institute, the Rural Initiatives Collective, as well as scanning over 50 municipalities that have rural transportation services. Interest in this topic in Ottawa is high. We've engaged over 1,300 residents on 3 surveys, a series of focus groups, and webinars. Our website has drawn more than 15,000 visitors. I'm going to hand it over to Ken Holmes now, and he's going to lead you through our developments.
Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you, Megan. I'll keep this brief. Details will be in the full presentation. It'll be uploaded to the website this afternoon, and I cannot see a timer. Transportation needs in rural Ottawa are increasing, and it's often difficult for a family to meet these needs within its own resources. This need was recognized back in 2002 in the report to council, but a number of these recommendations have yet to be implemented. The city's new official plan punted the problem of rural transportation to the Transportation Master Plan. Next, please. Residents want solutions that incorporate the properties of reliability, affordability, with a fixed schedule, and with sensible routes. I'll elaborate later if you have any questions. Next slide, please. Our outline plan integrates a network of rural express routes and local collector routes. Next slide, please. The first of our proposed improvements is to connect more of the villages that we show here. We estimate that this may entail 3 new routes that will generally reflect the recommendations that were made to council in 2002. Next slide, please.
We're at 4 minutes, Ken.
In addition, we need to supplement the existing routes with some local collector routes. I'm using Ward 5 as an example of the routes here. The lines in blue are the express routes, and green is our proposed collector routes. Our minibus collector system will incorporate the benefits of a modern on-demand system that operates within a scheduled circuit and uses a set of established stops. Next slide, please. Our proposal for a new set of transportation options will compare the costs of alternatives. Next slide, please. The CAA has recently published an excellent estimating tool on the cost of private automobile use. We've linked that on our website in order to help with making more informed decisions. Public and public-private partnership approaches would continue. One advantage of a PPP arrangement for the local, the advantages of a PPP arrangement for the local minibus collector network are being studied, and we're also considering the option of contracting that service. On fares, there is support for a fare of $5 to $10, but expanding the OC Transpo system to the rural areas currently comes with an additional charge of approximately $170 per year per household on the residential tax bill. Ottawa must consider a hybrid fare solution that incorporates a reasonable passenger fare but does not need to impose a large general tax increase on all rural residents. Megan.
Great, thank you, Ken. So how will our proposed solutions affect rural residents? With improved and increased transportation, we believe that the overall quality
Next slide, please. Thank
The
you.
overall quality of rural life will be enhanced with more transportation options becoming available. Something important for me is that youth will be able to better connect with important mental health programs and services only available in suburban and urban Ottawa. This is a growing concern as more youth are presenting with complex mental health needs, as we all know and hear. Additionally, they'll have more and better options for transportation to and from school, social activities, employment, and other opportunities to be connected to their communities. Similarly, adults will have more transportation options to get to and from their place of employment and to conduct a range of other activities associated with their personal, family, and professional lives. Many older adults will not have to rely on family members, non-for-profit driving schedules, or caregivers for transportation. Our community partners will continue to provide assistance to those in those areas, and together we're going to be able to support seniors to age in place. Also, we're fortunate that the diversity of rural Ottawa is blossoming, and improved transportation options would increase the opportunity for social connection to other diverse neighborhoods and communities within urban and suburban Ottawa. And rural economic development requires workers and customers and clients to move in and out of rural areas. Increased public transportation will be an important contributor to rural economic development. Ken?
Next slide, please. Next steps. We're working towards having a detailed proposal ready by late spring of 2023. Activities leading up to that delivery include consultation, where we intend to conduct a series of community consultation throughout all the rural wards in order to gain more feedback on specific needs and to gain opinions on fares and cost sharing. Information, we intend to conduct several more webinars in order to continue to improve the awareness of the options and to help lead towards an informed decision. We'll be seeking again more feedback on the specifics of timing, origin, and destination of the transportation needs. On the surveys, we'll be conducting our third survey over the winter. In addition to increasing participation, we'll focus on two areas: what's a reasonable fare, and should the model be based entirely on user pay, or should the cost be shared by all taxpayers? And finally, on a business case, we will be developing our proposal to include a more detailed dealing with the costs. And for that reason, we'll be requesting a review of the current rural transportation area tax categories. We'll be recommending a hybrid funding model that's based on a reasonable fare, but avoids the disincentive of increasing the tax bill for the non-users. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions for Megan and myself?
Well, before we go to question, we have two council have a question for you, but this time, Mr. Holm, you didn't stick to your 5 minutes. So you were more than 5 minutes, but we were more than happy to hear you continue to finish your presentation. So we're gonna go to Councillor Moffat, but thank you, Megan and Mr. Holm, for your presentation. Councillor Moffat.
Thanks. I think you actually, I had a question halfway through, and I think you actually addressed it in the last comments, but it was essentially what you referenced about the $170 per household per year. I assume you're calculating that as being added to the RTA charge, the Rural Transit Area A charge on the tax bills currently?
That is correct. To transfer from Zone A to Zone B requires an increase of about $170 per average residential property. And there's no question that's a severe disincentive to many people in the rural area.
Oh, so your suggestion is to make one rural zone rather than the current two?
I would think there are advantages and benefits to one rural zone. It would require a significant restudy of the costs, operation, maintenance, and capital. But I think there are opportunities if the user pays, we'll say, around $10 for a ride. there are opportunities to significantly reduce that overall tax penalty, we'll call it.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting conversation. I believe there's willingness in the urban area to have a conversation about having all of rural Ottawa pay the same tax rate as urban Ottawa.
Yeah, there's
that's just a. I'm not saying you're saying that, but that comes up from time to time.
yes,
So
I've seen
because we
that.
have those different rates.
I've seen that smile on many faces. My estimate is currently, according to city information, about a third of the rural area is paying the high rate, and that is bringing in something like $9 million for the operating budget. When you do your sums on the number of hours of buses that we have operating in the rural area, I consider that revenue to be excessive.
So when you say a third, you mean third landmass or third population?
No, 1/3 of the population, one third of the residents, 1/3 of the tax bills, the taxpayers are currently in the high rate.
I think you should look at that again, because I think knowing all of Cumberland is in, knowing Manotick and Richmond is in, knowing Carp is in, the only major population base that isn't in that rate currently is Osgoode Ward. But everything outside of that,
No, those
I'd be surprised if it was only 1/3 within the RTA A versus the RTA B.
The figures that I've used were given to me directly by the finance staff.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll take a look at that too, and we can connect, Ken, and then maybe I'm wrong.
But just a small correction, Scott. All of West Carleton March is
No, but Carp. I said all of Carp.
Carp is not. It's not.
I thought Carp was. Sorry. Thanks.
No,
Sorry about that.
we in my last 1 year, that was one goal. I tried to keep West Carleton in Area B, and I'm successful. So
Yeah.
this month is my last month on the job. What happened after now, I'm not sure.
Well, because all those
Councillor
boundaries are pre-amalgamation. We've never touched them. They were all established during the region.
Councillor Gower.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks for the presentation, Ken and Megan Ann. You mentioned your consultation. Could you just give us some more details about consultations with businesses, and maybe very briefly, if there were any themes you heard from businesses in that consultation?
We have not yet gone out specifically to the large group of the BIAs, but based on the initial work that we did during the CARP transportation study, we did have very significant involvement by the CARP Road Corridor BIA, and we've been in contact with them since then and exchange ideas. But certainly one of the major concern of the CARP Road BIA was how to get workers into that BIA, and organizations like the new retirement home in CARP has its challenges of getting workers into CARP. So we will be working closely with the BIAs. They're on our list of contacts, and that will be part of the next stage of consultation.
Well, that's good. In fact, I was thinking exactly of that particular business association, because I've heard from several of the business owners individually about their challenges in attracting workers due to the difficulty of getting there without transit.
Okay, so thank you again, Mr. Holm, Ms. Gordon, for your presentation. So I don't have to give you advice, but I will assume this presentation, you're gonna share it with the Transportation Committee with the future budget. I can assume that. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, we'll be sharing with them, and also we'll be sharing it with the rural office and the transportation master plan. It'll be posted on the website, and certainly it'll be the backbone of the next stage of our consultations.
And I'm not sure if we'll see you again, because we do have a meeting in November 3rd. But if we don't, thank you very much for all the years, your contribution to the improvement of the rural transportation, both of you, and I know you have a large group you work with. I just want to say thank you as one of the rural counselors on this committee. So thank you very much. And so
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to address the group.
Thank you.
thank you both. Thank you, Megan. There is no notice of motion for consideration and subsequent meeting. Item 12, inquiries. I received none. Item 13, other business. See none. Before we adjourn, so our next meeting will be November 3rd, after the election.
Councillor Dean had her hand up for a second. I wasn't sure if it was.
Sorry. I apologize. I didn't see that.
No, it's okay. I thought there was another speaker, so, and I just have to, another meeting at 11, starting at 11. So I was going to say I have to dip out, but we're okay.
So we're just adjourning as we speak. So on adjournment, thank you very much, folks, and have a great day. Thank you. And happy Metcalfe Fair, Councillor Darouz.
He's gone. He left quick.
I know.
We've got nowhere to go, you and me.
He's gone to Metcalfe Fair, Carp Fair, Full Cap. All right.
Well,
have a good day.
it's Richmond. Richmond's the best, and then it's Carp, and then Metcalfe. So I don't blame him if he went to Carp. It's just the Richmond's the better one. That's
We
good.
can debate that. We had double the attendance you did, and we still managed to be one of the best
It's
fairs.
just, I don't know really if that's the comparison. I mean, we all know Richmond's the best. There's really not much of a debate. We can debate it if you want. I just think it'd be a waste of